Over the past week, I've been watching two channels, Florida Maquis and Jennifer Veterans for Truth. They both have been doing amazing coverage on the Ebola virus. Now I would like to share the research that I have done as well as the two of these channels. Patients under observation in Fiji over mystery illness are not allowed visitors. Although they were provided medical treatment as standard of care, their illnesses progressively worsened, and despite best efforts, they died within a few days of each other. Let's back up a bit. Let's take a look at the latest affected area in Africa for the Ebola virus. Now there are 6 known strains of the Ebola virus that's known so far. The latest was, or the newest strain, was actually reported back in July of 2018. Let's take a look at what the CDC is showing as the transmission factors for the Ebola virus. As you can see, there is nothing listed for an airborne factor. Now let's take a look at some demographics. The size of the Democratic Republic of the Congo is pretty huge. It's significant. Now, these images were taken from Jennifer for Veterans. She has done an amazing job on trying to bring awareness to what could be potentially something that blows up quicker and faster than what people realize.
I want y'all to actually look at how big the Democratic Republic of the Congo is. It's a little over 1/3 the size of the United States and 2/3 the size of Western Europe.
Now remember, there was a new Ebola virus that was discovered in July of 2018. These are demographics of August of 2018, shortly after they had discovered this other strain, which is still unknown. Now, to get a better idea of the affected Ebola areas in Africa, let's take a look at a clip from Florida Maquis. He has done some outstanding work to bring awareness to what appears to be a growing issue.
Kind of go back a little bit to where this all started to show you how much of a handle they don't have on it. Now, here's the little town of Beni. And then, of course, the infamous Catholic parish of Mangina, where this all started, this most recent outbreak. Moved down to Beni, and then to this place called Butembo, down here. Okay? Now, after that, I'm sure a lot of you will remember this, they were deathly afraid of it reaching this place called Goma. And that's way down here. Because apparently this is a big crossroads, and if it were to get here, then they would not be able to hide it, I guess, would be their allegation. It would make its way around the world very quickly. Well, guess where the most recent cases are? Not in Goma. I have to zoom out and go all the way over here. The most recent outbreak is this place called Mbandaka. This is where they are now having to pick up and relocate to find the most recent cases. So tell me again they have it under control. That this is a limited outbreak. They were worried about it getting from this little tiny area here to this little area down here. That was their big worry a week ago. It's here now. So that'll give you an idea, roughly, of what they were afraid of versus what actually happened.
By using the Earth Null School site, you can see particulate matter in the atmosphere. I was looking up information and saw that viruses are less than 1 micron in diameter. So I decided to see if I could notice anything on this site. And here we are looking at particulate matter in the atmosphere over Africa. Look at the pattern. This particulate matter is less than 1 micron in diameter, which viruses would be in that category. Look where the pattern is showing compared to the current outbreak map.
So that'll give you an idea, roughly, of what they were afraid of versus what actually happened.
Here's an article that was published in 2015, and it was a study done on viruses and bacteria. And there was an interesting part that was pointed out in this article, and it stated that there was an African dust transport, and that this dust was transported from the African desert to the Caribbean, which is where the Dominican Republic is located.
Now to the growing mystery in the Caribbean, where 3 Americans have died within just days of each other at a luxury resort. 41-year-old Miranda Shop Warner passed away on May 25th at a hotel in the Dominican Republic after having a drink from the mini bar in her room. 5 days later, at the same resort, Edward Holmes and Cynthia Ann Day were found dead. Officials say all 3 died of respiratory failure, and there were no signs of foul play. The State Department says right now it is not aware of any connection between the 3 deaths. The resort says it followed the proper protocol in each case. Another mystery surrounds the death of an American husband and wife on a dream vacation in the South Pacific. David and Michelle Paul traveled to Fiji and then suffered from an unknown illness. They died within days of each other. Davis told relatives both of them got medical treatment and were released by doctors, and now their family is demanding answers. Health officials say a small number of people who came in close contact with the couple in Fiji are being monitored as a precaution. They say the cause of death is still unknown, but the flu has been ruled out.
The man has revealed that his daughter is one of the 2 nurses among the 5 patients under observation at Nadi Hospital over a mystery illness. The illness has been linked to the deaths of a United States couple, David and Jane Paul, who were holidaying in Nadi, which is in Fiji. The other 3 patients include a police officer and 2 security guards. Said they tried to visit her daughter in the hospital, but they were told no visitors were allowed into the rooms. They watched her through the glass window from outside, and she appeared to be getting better. He said he received information that his daughter would remain there for this week. He said the medical professionals at the hospital told him they would only release the 5 patients once they had been cleared by the doctors. We were not allowed to visit her. We can only see her from outside the window and give home-cooked meals to the doctors to pass them on. The doctors are seen wearing masks inside the room. He said the nurses worked in the same medical clinic. At this point, we are not aware of any specific public health threat to the community. Okay, reading that quote, if they're not worried really about a public threat, why do they have them quarantined? Why is the CDC involved? Obviously, because Americans are involved. Which brings us to this news story. And how often do you hear of migrants coming from the Congo?
Moving out of what was formerly Zaire, now called the Democratic Republic of the Congo, to this place just called the Republic of the Congo.
Coming from the exact place that Ebola is coming from. And now we have a couple that lives in Fort Worth, and this occurred in Eagle Pass, Texas. And if there are already 2 reported migrant cases from the Congo, how do we know how many we haven't caught? But this is no longer just a case in Africa and America. This is global. Think of how fast this can travel.
using the same protocols established for SARS. They're quarantining the complex and screening for symptoms.
Kowloon is the most densely populated area in the world, and Hong Kong is a harbor. It's going to spread.
Hong Kong is sending us blood samples.
We're also looking at samples from London. 2 clusters, one at a hotel, the other at a health club. 5 dead, encephalitis. And there's the man on the bus in Tokyo. 3 dead in that cluster.
Any of them traveled to China or London?
We're checking.
You see, new Ebola, as opposed to old Ebola, isn't like what you saw in the movie Outbreak. Back in 95, that strain of Ebola, from the time you contracted it to the time you were dead, was usually 48 hours. This particular strain acts like the cold for a couple of weeks. Fort Worth couple contracted it here in Texas and took it to Fiji with them, maybe just feeling a little under the weather.
Not only have 5 Americans lost their lives to a mystery illness, but thousands of Africans and who knows who else has lost their lives or battling right now. This is not to be a fearmonger. This is to bring awareness. Everybody should have a choice. So you can choose. This is the information we have so far.
My name is Cameron Kahn. I'm an infectious disease physician and scientist at the Center for Research on Intercity Health in the Keenan Research Center in the Li Ka-shing Knowledge Institute. Biodiaspora is a scientific project that's dedicated to understanding how the world interacts through international air travel and what that means in terms of the spread of infectious diseases. The way this network operates is extremely important to health and security and prosperity, economic activity in the world. So this is a demonstration of how the system actually works. Now, first of all, you see a bunch of circles here, and this is information that's coming from our colleagues that are working in the infectious disease surveillance world. And what they're doing is they're monitoring news of infectious disease events, or listening, if you will, to chatter on the internet about infectious diseases, and doing so in multiple different languages. We can look at a variety of other factors that may be important to diseases, things like altitude, or even humidity, or a variety of other different factors. But if we wanted to actually go a step further and look at international air travel, it's actually pulling, amazingly, information on the flight itineraries of over 2 billion people, and pulling that information out through our servers, and doing so in the span of about 1 to 2 seconds. So this is really a first of its kind capability to understand how the whole world is interacting and traveling in real time.
Jennifer for Veterans included some great information as far as preventative precautions, things to do, monitor colds and fevers, disinfect your living areas and your cars, disinfect your mailbox and your mail. They are coming from all around the world. Any deliveries you have, just disinfect them. Just be aware, prepare, and above all, no fear. We are all in this together. Much love to you all.